No, most of these companies are not just working on AI. They still have customers to serve. They still have the day-to-day operation to run. And in most cases, and I don't know how it works for you for Credibly, but most companies that I've been in touch with, they seem to have, they take somebody from marketing, or they take somebody from product, they take somebody from customer service for that matter, and from what they do day to day, and they say, okay, you got to focus on AI, you got to do something with AI. And I don't know how that works, because if it wasn't, if they weren't busy 100% of the time, first, we don't need them. The second thing is, if they're busy 100% of the time, you give them another project. Now you are asking them to be busy more than 100% of the time. So one of the things that always comes up is, how do you prevent AI from becoming a side project, MJ, instead of a core capability? A lot of people are struggling with that. A
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
small to medium businesses are there already. It's not like they have an unlimited amount of money for budget to say, I'm going to focus on AI now, and I'm going to let the other side of the business go to
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's always been part of the challenges with innovation, right? Which is like, how do you find the time to innovate? That's why large tech companies have hackathons and they have,
I love
offsites
that.
and work and all that. So part of the things that we've done here is when I first implemented the group of Gen AI champions, and I told people here, you're going to have to work and have to put in extra time. We have an employee budget that we use for employee and skill enhancement. And so part of it is like, hey, we'll give you, a few $100s to take this class or to spend some time now to free up some element of your work that you can automate using generative AI. But when you are able to free up, and I told my marketing team, I expect you to free up 4 hours, 1/10 of the time that you're supposedly working. Everybody works more than 40 hours, but like, assume you work 40 hours. I want you to free up 4 hours every week. I'm going to pay you a bonus right now to figure that out. But instead of backfilling those 4 hours with more work, take those 4 hours and learn. Right. And that's kind of like a way you can get through that initial hump where you're displacing something, but then you're replacing it with learning. So that's one way to handle it. I think another way to handle it is just understanding that like you have to have different levels in the company, and so the experimentation can happen ad hoc at a very small level. But businesses that are serious will have to eventually, when people are trained and feel comfortable, make Gen AI driven products or processes or deliverables part of their corporate objectives, part of their objectives, right? And say like, okay, we're now going to do these things, but we want to use it as a tool. What are the ways that we have to do to get there? I never recommend forcing Gen AI top down on day one. I do think that there is a time though, once you've done the training, once you've given people some time to experiment and you've given them the appropriate incentives to place, now you can say, we're going to go on this journey. And we have said, we're going to go on this journey. And there's a point where you have to say you're in or you're out, right? That's just a reality of business. I've talked to a lot of professors about
You're
Gen
on the
AI.
train or you're off the train.
Yeah, and some of them have these and they asked me, I walked them through this PowerPoint I put together, and I was like, I'm like, this is never going to show up in any of your research papers, but I'm telling you, you also have to fire some people because that is the reality of what businesses have to do when they have to go through change management. Because realistically, you just cannot bring 100% of the people along, and it is foolish to think so. Otherwise, you're always catering to the lowest common denominator who's going to hold everybody back. And like, that's a reality, right? You're not going to see that in the study, but that's 100% true. Like, you're going to have to fire the laggards and people who are going to do everything they can to stop progress because they don't want to be part of it or they don't believe in it. I'm going to do everything to mitigate that. I don't want fear or lack of knowledge to be the reason why this has to happen. But after a certain point, I have done enough change management enough to know there are people who are just going to say no, no matter what you do, and then they got to go.